I'm your host, Azara Tagaya. Welcome back to a new season of Ringgit Sense. Last year, we looked at major issues like the rising cost of living and how housing was a big concern for many of our viewers. This season is no different, as we will be exploring more current affairs issues that will affect your ringgit. Now, this year, we're starting the show with a consumer guide. Last year saw the launch of many new handphones, and with some costing more than 5,000 ringgit. So we wanted to know if a 5,000 ringgit handphone is 5 times better than a 1,000 ringgit model. What should you look for when buying a handphone? Well, we visited the team that runs Soya Chin Chow, a website that reviews handphones, to find out the answers. We met with Amin Anshari, the co-founder for soyachinchow.com, at their office. Every week, they review new handphones sold in Malaysia, so they have hands-on experience to the answers we were looking for. Okay, so when we're choosing a phone, what kind of tips would you give to phone buyers? How can you actually identify the differences between high-end phones or mid-range or low-end phones? What's the difference?
Essentially, there's only 2 types of phones. You either get the iOS, which is from Apple, or the Android phones. Typically, the Android phones are cheaper by a lot in terms of when you compare specs and performance. In terms of how do you know how can you differentiate whether it's a low-end or a high-end phone? Typically, it will be the price. Higher screen resolution would be better. And also better camera resolution, higher megapixel would generally mean a better phone as well.
Okay, so tell us about the different types of phones, the phone range that you have here with us today.
Okay, so the devices we have here range from super premium, really expensive, 5,000 to 3,000 ringgit phones. We have what we call the mid-range flagships. So this is 3,000 and below generally. These are what we call the lower end mid-range phones. So this is about 1,000 and below. You can also have phones that's 500 and below, but we don't have that today.
Should people actually go out and buy these 5,000 ringgit phones?
So the question is, if you're getting a 5,000 ringgit phone like this iPhone 10, for example, right? Yeah. Is it 5 times more than a phone that's 1,000 ringgit? The answer is no. And then the question is, okay, who would buy a phone like this? Well, it's people who, nowadays phone is very personal, so it's like a status symbol. So it's something that you buy to use and to flaunt. But if you're smart and you want to make your money work harder, then the Androids are the best bet. And again, from as low as 500 ringgit to as high as 3,000 ringgit, you can get comparatively better phones than the 5,000 ringgit phone that I have in my hand right now.
Okay, what about those cheaper phones, 500 or maybe 1,000 ringgit phone? What kind of specs can you expect?
Okay, so for 500, we categorize that as low end. So you're looking at maybe like a slower processor, the camera might be not so good, and the screen might not be so high definition. But in terms of performance, right? So most people would be using their phones for Facebooking, Instagramming, and chatting. So if you need that, then a 500 ringgit phone is just as good as a 5,000 ringgit phone. So typically, I would recommend people to go around the mid-range, 2,000 to 1,000 ringgit. You get like really good phones in that range. Alright, so for 1,000 ringgit, right, you can pick up a Xiaomi Mi A1. So this is 1,000 ringgit, 5.5-inch display, 64 gigs of storage, 4 gigs of RAM. It has expandable storage and a dual camera at the back, one for zoom and one for wide angle. This is pretty much all you need in a phone, right? It takes really good pictures, performance is really good, and it doesn't break the bank.
What would you think would be the best value for money phone for people who like to take pictures?
For us, it would be the Mi A1. So again, this is under 1,000 ringgit, dual camera setup. The only problem with this one is it doesn't have optical image stabilization. So the problem is that when you're walking and taking a video, or when you're using the zoom feature, you got to have like a really steady hand.
Okay. So let's talk about battery life. Which phone has the better battery life, and do you have any tips for people in how to actually expand the battery life of their phones?
Okay, so when it comes to battery life, you cannot go wrong with Apple. Apple has the best battery life of all the phones we've tested. So most phones by maybe 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you're almost out of juice. You need to charge. With the iPhone, you can go all the way to 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, no problems. So if you're looking for a phone that has really good battery life, Apple wins hands down.
After the break, with the large number of properties unsold in Malaysia, are we facing a housing bubble? The answers when we come back. In the last season, we talked about how there was a mismatch in the housing market where most people could not afford the new houses that were launched. This, in part, has led to a large property overhang in Malaysia, with many various properties going unsold. So many are now wondering, will this lead to a property bubble? We find out the answers in our next interview. To get a better view of the properties being built in the Klang Valley, I went up to the highest point, the KL Tower, to get a bird's eye view. Now we're here to have a look at the Klang Valley from above the KL skyline. Now, and even just glancing through, you can already see there are many different little pockets of properties being developed at the same time. So what we want to find out is, what's the main cause of property overhang in the Klang Valley? To find out the answer, I met up with Fuji Jen, the president of the Association of Valuers, Property Managers, Estate Agents and Property Consultants in the Private Sector Malaysia, or better known as PEPS. Okay, Mr. Fu, what would you think would be one of the biggest causes of property overhang in Malaysia?
The biggest challenge on the overhang generally is because of mismatches. I think one of the biggest mismatches is in terms of the pricing. I think of course, I will categorize it under three mismatches. First, on the pricing, you have seen the NAPIC report saying that almost about 80% of the unit pricing over 250,000 and above have a largest overhang. I think these are one of the reasons. Of course, it lies down to affordability. Right? So a mismatch. This is the first mismatch. The second mismatch is in terms of product. You have seen most of the product does not meet the expectation of what the market, what the masses required. There's a lot of product have been put, a shoebox unit, 300, 400 square feet of a Soho unit have been oversupplied. And these are the worried trend, because the overhangs, the statistic by NAPIC actually does not reflect the unit which is unutilized. Unsold unit, overhang unit is an issue, but a unit which have been completed but not utilized. For example, the Soho unit, almost probably more than 50-60% are vacant. So these are a worried sign. And the third mismatch, that which is a lot more worried than the rest of it, is a mismatch of location. I think you look at the statistic, a worried sign is that almost about 20,000 units of completed and under construction unit are those even under affordable pricing bracket. So that means that it's a mismatch of location. So these are the products that have been placed in the location far from the reach of the masses. Lack of connectivity, infrastructure, public transport. Example, what we have heard about Bukit Beruntung. So these are the main issue, mismatch of three mismatches, right? So these are the real concern.
So speaking about location, what would you say are some of the locations with the probably worst property overhang in the Klang Valley?
You have to look into which category of mismatches. In terms of pricing, why it's very prevalent. You are talking about in the three main urban centers, which is Klang Valley, Penang, and Johor. I think these are the area in terms of pricing. In terms of mismatch of product, KL probably and Johor Bahru will have the largest mismatches. But the other frightening part, it will be Kedah, surprisingly, having the largest number of product which is mismatched in terms of location. So meaning our storehouses, more than 400,000 was built, is definitely not in the location preferred by the buyer. So these are the concerns. Looking beyond this, I think in terms of, you need to look into the overhang issue with the entire ecosystem of the construction or the financing, marketing. I think these are very crucial to look into the entire ecosystem. The first, the impact of the oversupply situation is due to probably a mismatch or probably incomplete market situation, imperfect market situation where information are not freely available to first developer, second to the authority who approve the project, third to the bank who finance the project, and the bottom of the ecosystem of the whole housing is the buyer. I think buyer also in a way at fault because they have lack of information. People are rushing into the hurt feeling and going into the market without knowing what coming. So everybody thought that would be the last real estate available in their neighborhood. Everybody rushing. Of course, this has been spurred by people, so-called property guru, who have been try to fan the fire in the market to say, well, you don't buy now, tomorrow property will gone by 20-30%. So these are a real worry. I think the bank, the developer, the local authority have to play their part as together to really to look into what are the main issue.
So the big question on everyone's mind is there a property bubble developing in Malaysia? And will the property market crash?
My answer to that is no. I'm very I think when you look into the bubble, there is certain criteria why bubble happen. I think first, where we have situation where oversupply is prevalent in every sector. But in Malaysia context, I think as of today, you look at the NAPIC, you look at the overhang situation, it's only the top part of 500,000, 1 million and above. That are the area where oversupply situation happening. But we have not reached that level. It's not prevalent in every subsector. There's no for the median cost houses, affordable home, even median low, or median high, there's no oversupply situation. I think there's still a demand. So on that score, I say no. Now similarly, I think the other factor that in terms of bubble, you're looking at where the prices have been overheating. Again, it's only happening in the larger city, Kuala Lumpur, Penang, Johor Bahru. It's not to the entire nation. So I think we do not, of course, there's certain area, very hot area, there's a bit of overheating, a bit of speculative element, but overall we have not seen. So that is another cross for whether bubble going to happen. The other scenario that we're going to see the bubble happen where there's a panic selling. And we have not seen the same scenario what happened in 97, 98, where our banking system is still very strong. Thank you for Bank Negara have been introducing a cooling measure, loan measure, and also I think more on responsible lending policy by most of the commercial banks supported by Bank Negara. This is something that have been cooled down. Market have do a lot of correction for the last 2 years. So you have seen in terms of appreciation of the value have tapered down from the high of almost a double-digit figure, 10 to 15% during the period of 2010 up to 2014, 2014, but the last 2 years we only see a moderate increase of between 5 to 6%. To me, this is something more sustainable in line with the growth of the salary package in Malaysia.
Is there such a thing as cheaper higher education that can almost guarantee you a job with a good salary? After the break, we'll tell you how the Ministry of Higher Education is working on it. One of the major changes coming to our economy is Industry 4.0. This is the next industrial revolution where computers and automation will come together in a new way, and the country will need highly skilled workers for a change. The Ministry of Higher Education is working on this by placing more emphasis on technical and vocational education training, or TVET, as most of the new jobs created will be in the blue-collar sector. We visited 2 polytechnic schools to see how students are being trained for the future. What you're looking at is not a hangar at an airport. This is actually the Banting Polytechnic in Selangor. This Boeing 737 is used to train students in aircraft maintenance. Pramila Segar and Zulkarnain Zakaria are 2 students here pursuing their 3-year diploma in engineering in aircraft maintenance. They're part of the higher education's master plan to graduate 600,000 students with technical and vocational education training, or TVET. 65% or 1.5 million new jobs created under the 11th Malaysia Plan will require TVET training.
The 2 of you stay up there, the 2 of you come down.
What makes TVET different from other higher education is that it is fully hands-on and is designed with feedback from the industries. For example, the aircraft maintenance course that Pramila and Zul are now undergoing has instructors from the industry. At the end of their course, they spend a year doing their internship at airlines like AirAsia and Malaysia Airlines, working on aircrafts. The hands-on training they receive in the field translates into work experience, and usually employers will hire the students after their industrial training ends. For Zul, he dreams of being a pilot one day, and he sees studying here as a stepping stone into the aviation industry.
The best things is because we have a real 737. So we can improve our skill, not only class. So all the facilities inside the 737 can improve my skill in my future to get the job.
Here at the Sultan Salahuddin Shah Polytechnic in Shah Alam, electrical engineering students are learning how to maintain hospital equipment. Once the students graduate, they will be working in hospitals, maintaining the various equipments. This is one of the many examples of how polytechnics are constantly adapting their courses to fit the demands of Industry 4.0.
The most important thing about Industry 4.0 is not to be left out. We have to ride the wave or be ahead of the wave. That's quite important, and polytechnics always must be very adaptable and flexible in terms of their approach to adopt new technology. That's what we are. We have to produce the right fit of graduates.
Nurul Wahida Zainal has always loved electrical engineering, and after doing a search online, she decided to continue her studies here. Polytechnics are also heavily subsidized by the government, and students like Wahida pay only a small sum every semester. To graduate with a diploma, students only pay a total of 2,200 ringgit in fees. That's only 200 ringgit a semester, which is cheaper than most private colleges.
This is not too expensive, and then it helps a lot of beasiswa, and then if I graduate, I can be someone because of this is not too expensive for I pinjam the PTPTN.
Okay, the percentage of employment is around 95% for this 2017. All this 95% employed, and some of them continue their studies, further their studies in higher education. Oh, the other 5%, I think 2 of them get married. They are women, and they prefer to stay at home to become a housewife.
For both the polytechnics, the graduating students can expect a minimum salary of 2,000 ringgit. The salary goes higher depending on the experience of the student. For someone with a small size, Pramila surprised her parents when she told them she wanted to study aircraft maintenance.
They were pretty surprised because, not many girls would love to prefer dirty jobs in aircraft maintenance, but since small that I have a great curiosity on aviation industry. Well, my family is also a part of aviation industry, so this actually urged me to be one of a part in aviation industry.
These blue-collar jobs, such as an aircraft maintenance engineer, aircraft maintenance technician, have a high demand in Malaysia. Parents should not be worried if their children is not employed, because it is a highly demand job.
When we met the Minister of Higher Education, Datuk Sri Idris Jusoh, at the Higher Education Forum, he was in the midst of rallying his ministry with the tagline, "Soaring Upwards." He's pushing his ministry to work closely with industries so that graduates are better prepared for Industry 4.0.
So the moment you graduate, you already know. And when I meet the industry, I say that industries and academia are one. No more the concept of ivory tower where you are there, I'm here. So they are one, they work together. They shape up the curriculum. They train even the lecturers. We want the lecturers to be trained by industries. And we want also the students to have that industrial experience. And we need, as being said, we want the industrial people to come and co-teach in universities or in vocational colleges.
This is just one of the many changes the Higher Education Ministry is making to help students step into the real world. Polytechnics are proof that there can be affordable education, high employability, and good salaries if it's done right. For all the stories that you've seen today, you can see the extended version on our Facebook page, Ringgit Sense TV3. Click the like button and follow us for more updates. In our next episode, we take a look at the new process of hiring a maid. Will it really save you money? I'm Azara Tagaya, and I'll see you next week with more stories about money.